Hi, we're Jim and Julie Varick. Our backgrounds, we've got degrees in botany, and we're very interested in natural area management. So our channel here, the Woodland Steward, is generally about managing your woodlands, getting rid of invasive species on our woodland, our 60-acre parcel in Ohio. So most of what you see on this channel is about Ohio, and if you just scan along here, you see we've got some of the problems that we would have in Ohio. We've got honeysuckle growing up densely, there's burning bush and other things. The difference here is if you keep scanning, you realize that we're not in Ohio anymore, Toto. So we are in Ogunquit, Maine. Julie and I are on our 40th wedding anniversary trip to Maine. And we're walking along the Marginal Way, which is a beautiful walkway that goes along the coastline here in Ogunquit. And we realize as we walk along that some areas you walk along and you think, this could be any place in the United States because it's the same invasive, non-native species that are choking out the native vegetation. It's hard to miss this amazing view, but the vegetation could be any place in the eastern United States or the Midwest. So we wanted to do kind of an introductory video about the Marginal Way, hopefully opening your eyes a little bit to what you're seeing, because ideally what you would like to see if you come to it on a trip to Maine is you want to see things that are from Maine. You want to see views that are from Maine. You want to see vegetation that's from Maine. You want to experience Maine. Unfortunately, you don't have that all the time here, and we wanted to talk about that a little bit. So when you think about quintessential Maine landscapes, you will often include a lot of these beautiful roses that grow along the coastline. This is beach rose, rugosa rose, Rosa rugosa. This is unfortunately a very invasive non-native species. You look at the leaves and it has that very rough texture, which is where the species name comes for this. I mean, it's beautiful, there's no question about it. It has these amazing rose hips, these big red rose hips that are really pretty. Particularly right now, we are in the end of October here, but this is non-native. And if you look along this area, this stretch here, you'll see that it grows to the exclusion of almost everything else. There's a little bit of staghorn sumac here, which is native, which is nice, but very little competes with this rose when we drive along here. Ideally, what you would like to see is more variety of plant material here, not such a monoculture of this rose. Just so that we're not all negative, the staghorn sumac is a native plant. It's beautiful color in the fall. I mean, it's great right now, and it's a pioneer species, so it tends to come in like a lot of weeds where the ground is disturbed and the sumac comes in and fills it in. It loves the sun, so it's what I would call one of our native weeds that serves an important function and is beautiful. So, you know, I like the staghorn sumac. I would say one of the top 3 plants of concern along this way, the non-native invasives, is the Asiatic bittersweet or Oriental bittersweet. And if you look at it here, again, you know, it's fall and it has these beautiful berries. You know, we can't get caught up too much in how pretty the berries are, because if you look down again, it is just a monoculture. There's nothing else growing here other than this massive twist of vines. I'll put in a video that I took yesterday morning that showed a native tree that was just being engulfed by the bittersweet, and it kind of gives you an idea of what it's like. If you scan up here, you can see the light green leaves is all the bittersweet, and it's overtopping all of the trees and shrubs that grow in this whole area. Now, if we walk down here, you can see someone has taken some control measures. So you can see where they've cut out all of the bittersweet. All of these stems are bittersweet stems. So you can imagine that this looked like that before, and they've cleared it all out. It's going to take a while for this to recover, but right now, at any rate, you've gotten rid of that bittersweet. So there's a pellet and there's a place for new plants to grow. So along here you can see where there's this massive area of bittersweet, but there's no berries. That's very odd looking. I'm guessing what that means is that they came in here and treated this with herbicide before the berries were starting to form. So it has killed this off, and then they can just clear this out and start with a fresh palette. Because if you look just down the walkway here, this is what it would look like if it was not treated, just full of all these berries. You know, you think about the potential of spread for all of these bittersweet berries. It is so dense, it's amazing. So what a beautiful coastline we have here. It's really incredible. But how much more so if it was fringed with native Maine vegetation rather than non-native introduced vegetation, where it would be a functioning ecosystem with plants and birds and animals and insects that actually thrive and belong here. So if you look over here to the right, you see this is a restoration area where they've cleared out that bittersweet, they've cleared out the honeysuckle and other things, and they've started planting things that are native to this area. So things that are supposed to be here, that are eaten by the bugs that are supposed to be here, the birds that are supposed to be here, the animals that are supposed to be here. You know, they list bayberry, blueberry, chokeberry, sweet fern, juniper. You know, how much better to have some space in among the plants here. You know, we talk about a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. In some ways, knowing these invasive species kind of detracts from the whole landscape. You look at this and it's hard for me to look past this bittersweet and not think of this as just like a cancer spreading across the land, and I tend to miss the fact that we've got this beautiful landscape behind us and focus on just the ecological destruction that's happening right here. So, but you should be aware of it, you know, be aware of the beauty and be aware of the problems too. Across the path here, we've got this restored area, and again, it just shows the contrast of that monoculture of plant that doesn't belong here and doesn't function very well here, to all this diversity that you've got in here that does function, and it provides just a lot more resilience to change and habitat for other animal life. Pretty amazing to sit here. There's a common loon out here. The tide, it looks like, is coming in. It's pretty incredible. But as you're walking along the path, you notice this plant that is starting to creep in and fill in the pathway. This is Japanese knotweed, and very, very invasive. It's the only invasive plant I know of that will actually decrease your property value if you have it growing on your property, because it's so hard to get rid of and because it's so destructive growing into foundations and things like that. So you can see, very prolific. Right now it's producing seeds, so you can see a lot of seeds. They are treating it in various places along here. If you look along the coastline, you see pretty much all of the yellowish golden color is the Japanese knotweed that they're trying to get rid of. You can see where the powers that be have cut it back and then sprayed, probably a foliar spray that has killed off the Japanese knotweed in this area. Pretty effective. They're going to have to come back and retreat, but it has started to control it a little bit. You know, you can see what it looked like before they were controlling it, and actually if you look back here you can see just how dense it is. It is really good to see that they are putting time and effort and money into trying to control these non-native invasives. It takes some effort because people don't recognize it, and I think that's the point of this video, is not necessarily to prepare you for a walk down the Marginal Way or to prepare you for treating these invasive species, but it's to open your eyes and hopefully that you can read the landscape a little bit better when you're walking around, and you can see these non-native invasives, and you can see what it looks like when you're in a more natural area, and you can see the value in removing these things, because it's important. Right now it's hard to get rid of something that has been gone on, that has grown up this thoroughly, But when you see a small patch of it in your property, along a roadside or something like that, you can take care of that in an efficient way before it gets to the point where it's so hard to get rid of. So my goal here is to expose as many people as possible to what these things look like, so that we have an army of people out there dealing with small patches of things, rather than a few experts out there who are dealing with this massive undertaking of clearing out these huge areas. So they've done a good job of putting these signs up all along the way here, which let people know that when they see dead vegetation, like all of this dead bittersweet here, that's something positive, that they're working towards something better. And I really appreciate that. It's both educating the public that they're walking by, and it's showing that they're concerned about this too. You know, towns, municipalities, park districts, all of these people have a lot of things to deal with. Safety and maintaining trails and things like that. Not all of them have the ability and the resources to invest in also maintaining the vegetation or the natural areas. But this is kind of why we're here. This is what we're to be doing, is maintaining that natural area, so that when you come to Maine, it looks like Maine. It doesn't look like a Japanese garden. It looks like what Maine should look like. So I appreciate the effort that goes into these types of things. If you are in your natural areas and you realize that work is not being done, you know, take the opportunity to talk with the people in control and suggest that, you know what, bush honeysuckle may smell great in the spring, but it doesn't produce the environment that we're looking for, and we need to spend more effort and more time and money in maintaining these areas. Anyway, hopefully that was educational or useful. We appreciate you coming along.